morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group. Legal, lawful, constitutional tender wealth insurance in a world that has gone mad. You think about, you know what, today got a great show lineup. We got Ray Dalio today. We're going to have Peter Schiff today. We got the government shutdown raging on. We got an update on trade wars and, so much more. How about the thing with the high school kids? And I think this really shows you really where we're headed. It's a microcosm. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the other day there was a video of these high school kids that attended, I want to say, and I may have this part of it wrong, but I want to say it was like a pro-life or something movement, something like that. I'm not quite sure. But it was a planned and organized event, and there was lots of people there. I'll call it populism. So you had the people on the left and the people on the right. And they show this video of these high school kids that had the MAGA hats on, Make America Great Again hats on. And they have this Native American pounding on a drum, essentially kind of in this kid's face. And the kid standing there, not saying anything, but apparently, and he did, if you look at you could tell the young man was uncomfortable. And he just kind of had what they call a smirk on his face. And they essentially say, like they do now, that all these kids were taunting this Native American Vietnam vet and essentially acting horrible, and where are their parents, all this stuff. They're a terrible human because, let's face it, right? They had the Make America Great hats on. And they were chastised throughout the media. The school had to even close because of death threats and all this stuff. Some idiot out there saying, let's plaster all of these high school kids' information out there so we know where they live and everything else and blah, blah, blah. Only to find out later that's not what happened. The high school kids were the ones being bullied and intimidated. Now, there was a section they didn't even play in the video. Someone actually had the whole 2-hour event on video, and these kids were lining up to actually get on a bus where they were berated. And I won't even play the video because it's all bleeped out by some, and I don't know, I think it could have been Muslim. I'm not sure. Okay, but adults were acting disgustingly. The picture of the Native American, which they led you to believe that the kids were being the aggressor, actually he was being the aggressor. He came out of nowhere and started banging his drum in these kids' face. And I'll just say this, kudos to those kids, because you know what? They sat there and they took it. They took it. Didn't say a word. Didn't get angry. Didn't raise their voice. Didn't start an argument. Stood there and looked at him with, I guess, quote-unquote, a smirk on his face. But this is all you need to know. I hate to tell you this. That's why you need to have gold. Because it's coming. Ron Paul talked about it years ago. Revolution. We are so divided now, and essentially there's no more middle. Why? Because the middle got gutted out. The middle class is gutted out. This is a microcosm of it all. And the media wanted you to think one side was behaving heinously when really, in actuality, it was the other side. And I'll say this, kudos to those kids' parents, and more importantly, really, give the credit where it's due. Kudos to those kids because they didn't do a thing. They went out there, they exercised their right to assemble, and they did it with dignity. And I encourage all of you to read, if you haven't already seen it or heard about it, get educated about it. And again, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get all political, but this is one of the big reasons. This is what is happening, and we're going to tie all of this together today. Because you know what? It all fits into the pieces of the puzzle. When we get back, we're going to have Ray Dalio, we're going to have Peter Schiff, and then we're going to tie this thing all together. Patriot Radio News Hour, allamericangold.com is our website, 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. We got a big show lined up for you. 800-951-0592 is our toll-free number. We're chasing something right now. I'm hoping to have something really exciting for you. We'll see how we do. Yesterday we had those British sovereigns; those are gone. You know, you got to get on it when you got it when it's there for you. But give me to the end of the show. We're working on something. I don't know if it's going to come together or not. But stay tuned. Right now, not a whole lot going on. The Dow's up less than 100 points. Silver is unchanged. Gold is down $1. But we'll see how it progresses, and I'll give you what's happening. There was an update on the trade war, and again, I pride myself on being educated because I don't want to come out here and tell you things that are not true. You know what I've told you since this trade war started. China's going to say, hey, we'll buy more stuff we may or may not want to sell them, but they have no interest in protecting American companies' sovereign intellectual property. The next round of meetings that was scheduled for next week have been canceled. Why? Due to lack of progress on the protection of American companies' intellectual property. Matter of fact, they said the Chinese won't even admit that they've been stealing it, which apparently we were going to give them a hall pass on. Hey, all right, we know you stole all this stuff. We're going to let that go as long as you promise not to steal any more. The China was like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal anything. But we've got you red-handed stealing it. That's not me, right? That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So anyway, we'll see. Government shutdown. I don't know. And it's not just the 800,000. There's probably three times as many contractors. Those people don't get back pay. And again, goes back to what I started this show with. We are a nation divided, mostly because the wealth has disappeared. We have it in the hands of the few. The middle class has been gutted. Matter of fact, half the people that say they're middle class really aren't anymore. Those are facts. Yesterday we talked about one of my favorites, because there's certain people that I look to, and these aren't fringe people, because they're everywhere. These are the people, I always, at the end of the day, I like to follow the money. Where's the real money go? And Wall Street's not the real money, just so you know. What are the billionaires really doing? Who do they give their money to? Ray Dalio's one of those guys. He gave an interview in Davos the other morning, and I told you we were going to play it. So Ramon, let's go ahead. Let's play Ray Dalio. This was yesterday on CNBC. He's going to tell you what's coming next. Go, Ramon.
Joining us right now is Bridgewater founder, co-chief investment officer, and co-chairman Ray Dalio, and we're thrilled to see you this morning. Despite the sun, there is a lot of hand-wringing going on here in Davos. You apparently were doing a little bit of hand-wringing about what may or may not happen in the years to come. In your panel this morning, I just saw some of your comments, but I wanted to ask you, this guy, I think maybe you guys had a mind meld. Seth Klarman has a letter that's been going around Davos a little bit this morning, and it sounds a lot like you. He says, it can't be business as usual amid constant protests, riots, shutdowns, and escalating social tensions. You've talked a lot about social tensions, and he asks in the letter, social frictions remain a challenge for democracies around the world, and we wonder when investors might take more notice of this. Why do you think thus far investors seem to have tuned out all of this as noise?
Well, investors buy returns on stocks and so on, so it hasn't yet become a factor in terms of creating any disruption. There's a certain time horizon, maybe a few months, 9 months might be it. And so if you take corporate tax cuts, they make stocks worth more. Or if you have interest rates at such a low level that a return on investment of buying equities for those who own equities, I mean the people who own their companies and they have buybacks, that supports stock prices. So the mechanics of that, even populism of the right, capitalism and making profits is what motivates the stock market. It's not what motivates the whole economy. So you have to realize that you're buying an income stream. And so it's those factors that are most.
So where are we in the income stream? And I should tell you, Scott Minard was sitting where you were in the last segment. He thinks a recession is coming in 2020.
So there's a significant risk of a recession. A recession, is it -1? Right. Is it +1? Okay, so let's not get technical about that too much. There's a high likelihood of a significant slowing in 2020. And so now let's put that in perspective, right? We're in the later stages of the cycle. We have had certain things that mean there's a hump in growth, and then there's going to be globally a slow up. It's not just the United States, it's Europe, and it's China, and then when Japan, and we look at where we are in interest rates. So we are at almost zero. We have 300 basis points here. We have zero there. Those factors, together with the income gap and the populism, will lead to now the political election. We're going to start to enter the election season.
2020 already here, and this week some new candidates on the list.
And so, with that, we're going to now have a question about the rethinking of how we're operating. That wealth gap has brought about populism, and with that, we're going to have the political conflict. The implications of the political conflict for markets are very profound, so we're going to start to talk about that. For example, is a 70% tax rate going to happen? Does that change how we will behave with capital gains? Does that have an effect? So these factors, the combination, I think, the three big factors are the combination of the wealth gap and the politics as we come to it, where we are in the later cycle, and the inability of central banks to ease as much. That's the cauldron that will define 2019 and 2020, in my opinion.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to say, where does the relationship between the U.S. and China fit into that matrix? Because I know that you've talked a lot about the sort of longer-term battle that might be emerging between these two countries.
Yes, I think that's another example of why this period is very similar to the late 1930s, right? So what are the factors? One of the factors is that we have a phenomenon in which there's a rising power challenging an existing power in different ways. There's a trade component of that. That isn't the most important component. I think the trade component can be dealt with well. There's a way of being component. China is from top down for its various reasons. It goes back to Confucius, it goes back to dynasties, and it is a way of operating. There's a bottom up. That issue has implications for supply chains. In other words, you have a range of possibilities. Nobody knows where that will end up. None of the leaders know the range of possibilities. If you take the worst case possibilities, which is, let's say, a conflict, then that leads itself to, am I self-sufficient? Are you self-sufficient? How are you going to deal with that? Those issues will be with us at the time. So what I'm saying is, if you take a period of time that's analogous of forces, these are the forces. The forces of the wealth gap. The top 0.1% of the population's net worth equal to the bottom 90%. You go back to 1930s. If you take populism, as it has a political, you go back to the 1930s as that comparison. If you take where we are in terms of monetary policy, the ability to stimulate, because everybody's long. Everybody's leverage long, right? And you want to be leveraged long because everybody wants it to go up. That means central banks do things to make it, that provides credit. That's buying power. You want to make it go up because everybody's leveraged long, and you're at a limit to that because you can't as easily lower the interest rate, or you can't as easily print money and make it go up anymore. These are the inflection points. These are the issues of our time.
These are the inflection points. These are the issues of our time. And you think about, and he said a lot in less than 6 minutes. He talked about, they call it the wealth gap. Okay. That's a nice word. I call it the gutting of America. Right? It's, really, what was America? We had the best middle class the world had ever seen. And we've taken it all away. And we replaced it with what? We replaced it with debt. Right? So he talks about the wealth gap. Says, hey, 0.1% owns 90% of the wealth. I told you yesterday, just 26 people own more than half of the world's population combined. So that was one issue. He talked about the emergence of the new power, referring to us as the what? Old power. And said, hey, by the way, and he said it nicely, China has a way of doing things. It's different than the way that we're used to doing things. And they're the new power. And said, hey, listen, this could end okay. And guess what he said? Or the worst case scenario, it's World War III. So obviously, it's going to be somewhere in between those two. I've got a pretty good idea. It's going to be a lot closer to World War III than it is, hey, everything worked out great. By the way, I've got an update. I'll get to it after the break. China is going to pass the United States. Well, I'll do it now. China is going to pass the United States this year. And what did they call it? Let me get to it. And then, Ramon, just to let you know, on the next segment, we're going to play Peter Schiff. And we're going to finish with Ray Dalio because he talked more things very important. China is going to surpass the United States and become the top retail market in the world. And again, they're already the top, but now they're going to do it dollar-wise. Experts say China's market will exceed the U.S. by $100 billion in 2019, with sales growing to $5.636 trillion. That's just retail. The United States expected to finish the year at $5.5 trillion. Growth rates are decelerating in both countries. China now has the highest rate of e-commerce sales in the world. And I thought we were the e-commerce champion of the world, by the way. China does 35% of all their sales apparently are now on e-commerce. The country's going to have 56% of digital retail sales around the world. The U.S. e-commerce, by the way, just so you to put it in perspective, only 11%. By 2022, that number's starting to come up more, isn't it? 2022. They say China's retail sales will exceed almost $7 trillion. They said by 2022, China will have $750 billion to $1 trillion a year more in retail sales than the United States. Again, how do you think the trade war is going to work? Let me give you the toll-free number, 800-951-0592. When we get back, I'm going to finish with what Ray Dalio talked about, and then we're going to play Peter Schiff. Don't touch that dial.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Mrs. Schlafly was a courageous and articulate voice for traditional values and common sense for more than 70 years. Now, continuing that legacy, the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
Libraries are supposed to be places of information and growth. They are supposed to be where we send our children to learn and gain the basic academic skills necessary to succeed in our society. However, LGBT advocates have created a stranglehold on these beloved public institutions by starting so-called drag queen story hours at libraries across the nation. At these events, men dressed as women read stories to children that indoctrinate them with the values of the progressive left. The craziest part of this whole situation is that the drag queens are totally open and unapologetic about their plans for your children. When LGBT advocates tried to bring their indoctrination to Lafayette City, Louisiana, they were enthusiastically embraced by the library. However, the parents of Lafayette were not so welcoming. The matter was brought before the city council, where citizens were allowed to voice their concerns. In that public hearing, drag queen Dylan Pontiff explained his motivation behind pushing for the story time was to, quote, groom the next generation, end quote. That was one thing Pontiff and the parents of Lafayette could agree on. The only problem for him was that parents did not want their children to be groomed on politically correct ideology by gender-confused strangers. Despite a strong showing by outraged parents, the council refused to vote against the drag queen's proposal. Instead, council members simply refused to vote on the matter at all, thus blocking the drag queen story hour on procedural grounds without having to actually take ownership for their actions. The left tries to paint parents who are worried about indoctrination like this as kooky alarmists. Stories like this prove liberals only do that because they want to shame parents into handing over their children. Don't let them pull this trick on you. An essential part of the freedom we enjoy as American citizens is the freedom to raise our own children as we see fit. Where governments are responsible for the rearing of children, tyranny and collapse always follow. No one should be able to shame a parent into turning over their children to the czars of so-called tolerance and inclusion.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Political correctness is no longer simply about restricting speech. This tool for tyranny has led to employees being fired, pastors silenced, small businesses closed, and truth suppressed. Thankfully, the politically correct can't censor the work at phyllisschlafly.com. Join us, won't you, at phyllisschlafly.com. And thanks for listening to the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
800-951-0592. Gold just turned positive, $1,284. Silver is up now about 3.5 cents, $15.35. The NASDAQ and the S&P have now gone negative. The Dow is trying to hold gains up 40 points. Here's what I've got today. So I just got it from Arlene. And I told you, and we've told you here so many times, we want to sell you the most amount of gold and silver possible, closest to spot as possible. And try to be, as private as possible. Today I've got an opportunity. I don't have millions of these. I've got 30 Mint State 61 $20 Liberties. So what does that mean? They come in the hard plastic case, and these are PCGS and NGC. I don't know which. Don't ask, right? Either way, you're going to get, right? They're the best two in the world. You're going to get one or the other. These have been looked at, put under a microscope, encapsulated in the hard plastic so they can't be damaged and all that stuff. And these are things our competitors like to charge hundreds of dollars more for them. I've got 30 Mint State 61 $20 Liberties at $1,285. That is $5 less than our regular $20 gold, ungraded $20 gold pieces. I've got 30 $20 Liberties and 15 $20 Saints. So 45 total. If you like graded coins, here you go. Here's your chance. The best part is you don't pay graded prices. You think about a graded coin for like $100 over spot. It's incredible. 800-951-0592. After the show, depending on how many we sell, I'll put it up on the website if I feel like there's going to be enough out there so you can buy online as well. Listen, there's no bait and switch here. We are not like other gold companies. You call another gold company, and essentially what you did is you guaranteed they're going to call you and harass you for the rest of your life. Not here. Listen, just call up 800-951-0592, and you tell Arlene, I'd like the special. Here's our big sales pitch. You ready? How many would you like? There it is. That's all there is. She's going to give you a total. You can pay for it, obviously, personal check. We take all forms of credit cards. If you pay with a credit card, you got to pay the credit card fee. You know that, right? Because we only have single-digit markups to begin with. So obviously, and everyone's got those reward credit cards. I get it, right? You want the points. Well, they charge me, I got to charge you. But you can send us a check if you want to pay cash, right? You can pick them up in Phoenix. You can pick them up in Colorado. Save on the shipping. If you want us to ship, it's $35. When you place the order, we give you a trade number. That locks it in. Gold could go up $100 tomorrow. You don't pay any more. Go the other way, right? We know that. You don't get to pay unless you lock in. Take advantage of it. Listen, put it all away. I'm going to get back to Dalio, but before I do that, I hope we've got enough time. Let's play Peter Schiff real quick.
Peter Schiff, thank you so much for joining us here at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to see you again.
And you're a great panelist yesterday on the Ultimate Gold panel. We're going to talk gold in a bit, but, I interview you a lot, and one of the comments I often get is, hey, Peter has been saying that we're going to have an economic collapse for years, that gold's going, above 5,000 for years, but recently you came out and responded to these scoffers.
Well, that's not recent. I've been responding for a long time. But of course, nobody can come out and say, hey, we're headed for an economic crisis, and then the crisis hits tomorrow. Right? Obviously, you see trends that are building. Right? You see a problem forming well in advance. It's like if you go to a doctor and let's say you're smoking and you're overweight and you don't exercise, they can make some forecasts about your health and maybe these bad things are going to happen. That doesn't mean that you're going to get cancer the next day, but obviously if you do things that are bad for your health, there is going to be a toll, and ultimately something's going to happen. And so I see the same thing with the economy. We're doing a lot of things that are very bad, that are going to we're making us very sick. And we're going to succumb to the disease. But it doesn't mean we're going to succumb tomorrow. But I don't think anything that has actually happened in the real world has contradicted anything that I've been saying. I think all of the problems that I've diagnosed in the U.S. economy have just gotten worse since I diagnosed them. And so ultimately, we're going to suffer the fate that I have been predicting.
Government shutdown.
Yes.
When will the drama end?
Well, I don't know. Unfortunately, the government is not really shut down. It's still open. That is the bigger problem. If we could actually shut it down, that would be a positive. But it is inconvenient for a lot of people, and it is a lot of political theater. And ultimately, it ends up costing taxpayers more money to shut the government down. than to leave it open. So it's actually worse because it's a phony shutdown. But I don't know when the drama is going to end. But that's all it is. It's theater. It's the Democrats and the Republicans posturing against one another, to basically in advance of the 2020 election about who's going to get the blame for the shutdown, and anything bad that happens in the economy, well, they can also blame it on the shutdown and point fingers at whose fault it is. And I think the Democrats think, well, we can easily blame Trump, and Trump wants to blame the Democrats. But, none of this is the real, problem. It's a distraction. It's like a sideshow, and it basically deflects people's attention from what they should really be worrying about, not the shutdown or the wall.
Turning to gold, I mentioned it yesterday during the panel, mainstream media loving gold again. We're seeing billionaires who never bought gold before buying gold now. Central banks that never bought gold entering into the space here. What do you make of it?
Well, I think you're overstating the love affair. I mean, there might be a couple of people who are saying they're buying gold.
Compared to the rest of the year, I mean, people are talking about gold again.
Yeah, very few people are talking about it. And when it's mentioned, normally, people just dismiss it or discredit it. In fact, the fact that a couple of people are talking about buying it, I mean, maybe it's a novelty. So I think that it makes sense, that some people are now finally looking at it. A lot more people should be looking at it. And I think ultimately that is going to happen as the price of gold moves higher. More importantly, though, as the problems begin to manifest themselves in ways that hurt investors in a more meaningful way, whether it's the decline in the value of their stocks. Now that we've entered a bear market, we're now in a correction. We're having a rally in a bear market in the U.S., but I think this is early in the bear market. So as that grinds down, as we make new lows, and as inflation really starts to take a toll on the real value of people's savings and their investments, of not just their stocks, but in particular their bonds, their savings, the cash value of their insurance policies, maybe their annuities or their pensions. As inflation starts to erode away their purchasing power, more and more people are going to wake up to the benefits of owning gold.
We'll be back right after the break. 1385 on those 6120s. Give us a call. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Gold's now up $1.50, $12.85 in rising. Silver approaching $15.40. The Nasdaq getting ready to turn negative now. It's still up about 15 points. The S&P, the Nasdaq, already negative. Arlene said I misspoke earlier, so I want to clarify. We have Mint State 61 $20 Liberties in St. Gaudens. They're encapsulated in the hard plastic case and graded, not by me, by PCGS or NGC. They're $13.85. $13.85. So not $12.85. That's the spot price. $13.85. So $100 over, and by the end of the day, I got a funny feeling it's going to be less than that. So I don't have a lot, but I'm telling you, this one, take advantage of it. I mean, this is something. Usually, a graded coin brings an extra $75. Right? So now you're talking about you're going to pay. I can sell you at least 45 graded 20s for less than a raw 20 today. And again, every day, our process. We go out, I get you the best deals possible, and then I don't sit there and buy these great deals and mark it up and try to make even more money. No, I pass the savings on to you guys. That's why we've been doing this 23 years. And again, remember, this is how we pay for this show. And I'm going to tell you, listen, don't believe me. Believe the guys I believe in. Ray Dalio. I believe him. Right? Believe Jeffrey Gunlotz. Look at what Peter Schiff talked about. Hey, listen, and he's not wrong. All the things he warned about, and he used you're a patient. Right? There were signs. Hey, right, you smoke, you're fat, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you're going to have health problems. Right? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. And we've had them, haven't we? We've been in and out of the hospital, and they try to convince us, it's kind of like, hey, it's in remission. Well, Ray Dalio, it's coming back. This is the problem. And every time it comes back, it's worse. It's worse than the previous time. And Dalio talked about it. And he says, 2019 and 2020, because the election's going to start, and he keeps going back to the 30s and populism. And I bring up those kids. I brought those kids up earlier today because they did nothing wrong. Matter of fact, they should have been commended because a lot of the kids in that situation, because they're kids, would have reacted much differently. And then if you actually hear what they went through, it was really what we should be talking about is what was that group with all the profanities? Those people, right, those are the ones that we need to find out about. But we're not going to. But it just shows the divide here. I don't know what the tipping point is going to be. Right? This altercation, I really feel like we got lucky. Nothing bad happened. I mean, it was going to get bad, and hopefully it doesn't. Right? The school had to close. There were the death threats. What if there had been violence? What if sooner or later, that's what I worry about. And then he brought up, hey, listen, think about it. Not only did he talk about China, talked about the gutting of the middle class. That's my words, not his. And he started talking about, hey, what's going to be the environment? Right? He said, we had the reasons why stocks went up, and he gave those reasons, right? Hey, you had stock buybacks and tax cuts and da-da-da, so you had a false rally. But he started talking about taxes. Brought up something I hadn't heard yet, capital gains taxes. Maybe I haven't heard that they're going up, but he kind of implied that they're going to. He brought up the 70% that one lady, I forget her name again, I'm sorry. Cortez, I think it is. That's called, Arlene's giving me the head nod. Okay, Cortez, right? She talked about a 70% and all listen, people approve it. Right? That it's immoral to have billionaires. It's the same type of a problem. And I think all of this is going to be weighing on the market. And really, I think a lot of people, like Peter Schiff said, yeah, there's some people, there's definitely been a pickup in gold buy. That's absolute. But Peter Schiff was right. It hasn't gotten that big yet. But it's gonna. Right? More and more people are going to be looking for, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my assets? This is not a good environment for debt right now. You have a central bank, Ray Dalio told you, central bank's got its hands tied now. We never got back to 5, 6, 7%. We never did. And he even said, listen, we can't even get back to 3. A lot of the world's still at 0. They don't have the ammo they used to have. Because it's always what? The same ammo, which is more debt. And he said everybody's leveraged long. Why? Because we want it to go up. Of course we do. And I want stocks to go up. I know people think that I don't. That's not true. I do. Because I know so many of us that we're stuck. We got these crappy 401ks. Think about, when did the gutting of the middle class really start? That's when it started. Right? 1971, we didn't realize it started then. Then in the 80s, it started to really kick in, right, with all of these 401s. Right? No more pensions. Companies don't have to do right. They want the stocks to go up. How big stocks go up? Hey, you don't have to pay for all your employees anymore. Hey. Now you go. There you go. Dow's negative now. 800-951-0592. I'm not going to scream and yell at you today. You know what's out there. The signs are there. Do something about it, because I think you're going to do real well. That's why. Patriot Radio News Hour. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. The Dow is now down 40. The S&P is down 13. The Nasdaq's down 50. Gold is now gone higher. 1,284, 1,285. Silver is 3-4 cents higher as well. About closing in here on $15.40. Today's special. And again, I don't know what you're waiting for. MS61 $20 Liberties in Saints, $13.85. Our regular 20s are $13.90. This is why you want to do business with us. I know a lot of people, hey, they like the graded coins, right? There's no question to what you hold. You don't have to worry about the coin shops trying to steal them for you or whatever. They're fake, or they're this, or they're that, or blah, 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 blah. These are the coins for you then at 800-951-0592. Here's why I like them. Because as gold starts to go, you're going to get not only the move in gold, but you're going to get those slab premiums. They're going to come back. Right? We've seen already the premiums on the raw gold, they're back. So you're essentially buying these premium free. Right? And I told you, normal premium is about $75 between an ungraded and a mint-safe 61, $70, $75 an ounce. And at times, boy, when gold hit 1900, an MS61, you're talking $2,600. Take the time, put some away. 800-951-0592. You got 3 lines still open. Well, okay, 2 lines still open. Arlena's broken one of the phones today. So and I don't mean to laugh. We got a phone, and it's my phone. It's my phone, too, that I use. And I trip over this phone cord. I can't tell you. At least once every other week. This phone has fallen on the ground, and I'm not kidding. At least 100+ times, and has always worked. Arlene has never done it. She did it, and now it's broken. So it may take us a few more rings than normal to get to you. 800-951-0592. That is the toll-free number. We will be back tomorrow. Got some other things we'll get to. Ron Paul was out talking. I want to get to him. I didn't get a chance to get to him today. And a bunch of other things as well. Again, the move down, a lot of this correlated to the news with the trade talks with the Chinese. Listen. Ray Dalio put it very, very nicely. He said it a lot nicer than I did. This is how the Chinese operate. And they've operated this way for centuries. This is what they're about. This is who they really are. They're not our friends. Never been our friends. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Everybody enjoy the rest of your hump day. We'll be back tomorrow.